Hello everyone, I am Tacit and today I'm going to be going over the 7 Gems of War Flower Dragons, as well as at least one team for each of them and of course multiple for the 6-color dragon. As far as how you obtain them, these have been available since Monday and you can go over to Game, Soulforge, and then over to Troops. And of course it is the 3rd dragon as far as the category here. Keep in mind they are a little bit more expensive. It seems like every single time they keep upping their price ever so slightly, originally 500 and 550, and of course the flower dragons are now at 600 each. These are currently the only way to get them. You'll of course have a random 1 in 6 chance of end up getting one of them. Then once you have all 6, you go and create the 2 corresponding weapons. Where are they? Right over here. You create the 2 corresponding weapons. Obviously it does not consume them. You just simply have to go and create them and you'll get the weapon in return without consuming them. And then you go and create all 3 of these, and having all 3 of these of course lets you get the actual main reward, which is the 6-colored flower dragon. So as far as this category of troop, it's rather interesting. They have a slightly higher max hit than Chrysantherax. Like in this case, this has about a 0.2 better magic boost ratio. I think in my current magic range, depends on the battle and other ratios, but I think we're getting like 13, 15-ish extra damage in the current state of the game compared to our Chrysantherax, depending on the team. And yeah, it's not that bad. It's basically what Diamantina almost should have been originally, but they never bothered buffing it to be this strong. It's a full AoE that's the highest damage in the game. So whenever you simply need 1 cast to kill out a battle, this is now your highest damage range in the entire game for doing so. It deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, explodes all skulls, and then there's a 10% chance for an extra turn boosted by skulls exploded. So this is pretty standard compared to many of the other dragons as far as the extra turn rate, with the main gimmick being instead of having all the umbral stars and stars from something like Chrysantherax, it simply gets to explode all skulls. This of course is very counterable in the sense that if the entire board is void of skulls, it'll explode 0 while only having a 10% chance for an extra turn. So it is not ideal since it's directly counterable compared to something like Umbral Stars and everything else that you end up getting off of Chrysantherax, which of course you can't really counter for because there's always going to be some amount of mana on the board that can end up utilizing it. The upside to this though is if there's any amount of skulls on the board, you can't actually miss. You can miss by the fact that there's 0 skulls on the board, but you know, if there's like 5, 6, whatever on the board, you will always be getting a guaranteed amount of mana, whereas if you did the stars and completely missed, well, you got absolutely 0. So as long as there are skulls on the board, it does have more guaranteed mana than that of Chrysantherax, but overall will generally mana accumulate less than Chrysantherax. But you can also do this the other way around by having things that can end up assisting you with skulls, things that create skulls every single turn, things like Skull Storm onto your team, and similar related mechanics in order to go and bolster up your skull ratio so that you can actually go and end up getting more explodes onto the board. As far as their traits, they are the least tanky out of any of the dragons so far that we've gotten from the eggs. However, it does have a rather interesting gimmick to go with that. So it only has 25% spell reduction as far as reductions are concerned, but it has 35% skull reflect. This is still relatively low. I feel like all reflects in the game should pretty much be double whatever their value is right now, like 50% being 100%, this being like 70%, so on and so forth, although 25% being like 50. But 35%, that's somewhat usable. It does get a little bit of extra life whenever you match skulls. That is something else that's pretty worth noting, is that these do not have any way to gain additional magic. Even though they have the best magic ratio out of any of the dragons so far, they do not have a trait that boosts their magic even further. If you want to boost them with magic, you either got to put things on your team that give you magic at the start of battle, as far as like team composition bonus, or troops that literally give like 5 to all stats, stuff like that, or you have to go and use a troop that, you know, during the duration of a battle can end up boosting its magic, because otherwise it has no way on its own to increase its magic. Other things can, of course, but it itself can't, despite having a really good magic boost ratio for its damage. But overall, still pretty good trait setup, though definitely the flimsiest out of all of them as far as time to kill. And it does have the highest mana cost too, which could be quite a bit of a downside. While it might not seem like much, only having like 2 higher than Chrysantherax, but it really starts to add up when you're getting a number that big. 34 is a very, very big mana pool. Yes, you have 6 colors, so it's not the hardest to go fill. You could easily get it in like, you know, 1, 2 mana accumulation casts. However, there are a lot of situations if you fall behind on mana where this thing is going to take forever and a half, especially if the enemy has mana drain or other similar mechanics. So definitely stuff to look out for when utilizing it. One other thing to keep in mind, unless they glitched it out or something, however, the flower dragons will not show up in Soulforge. Based on what they said in the past, they should not show up for about another year. So do not try to wait on them to come over to the weekly reset, like how these Celestial Dragons and Gem Dragons end up appearing here. as it will be over a year. It could be all the way to like next year's April before we start seeing flower dragons start to populate the Soul Forge. So the only way you can end up getting them, unfortunately, is through the pure RNG system that is this eggs. And if you want to see the opening of that, we end up doing that on stream last night. It'll be pinned all the way at the end of this video. But anyways, let's start getting into the teams. So we have 10 teams to go show. Let's just start racking them out one by one, all of which will be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste any of them. So first things first, we have our daily quick kill team. So as far as this team is concerned, this is for killing out, well, all your dailies. If you want to do adventure board, pet battles, anything like that, you just simply click, cast, win in one single shot, or in this case, 2 shots, since we're doing an Explore 12 here. It does unfortunately take 2 shots to kill Explore. However, it can one-shot Explore 10 pretty consistently, and depending on your magic level, it could even one-shot Explore 11, which has not been possible in the past, so that's pretty interesting. You have to build really heavily into magic and have basically every magic bonus in the game to be able to get away with that, though. But it is something that you can build around, though not necessarily something too needed, as having the higher mana accumulation to go up immediately is often going to be quicker than going for the one-shot. Beyond that, we have our, but yeah, this is basically just running all the dailies, pet battles, anything else in that regard. It just kills out any daily as you normally would, just a little bit quicker than you already had access to. Next, we have the 4 times Nexus team. So this is also something that you could end up running for, of course, any kind of restriction for this, if it's in PvP or similar things. It is also 4 times Elemental, so it does technically go for that category too if you ever need it. Though do keep in mind, when it comes to Guild War Defense, we'll mention this again because we do have a proper Guild War Defend to go show in a moment. However, when it comes to Guild War Defense, keep in mind that Stellaryx and Wand of Stars do get replaced. However, the new Flower Dragon currently does not get replaced. What I mean by that is Wand of Stars will get replaced with Prismatic Orb. Something like Stellaryx will get replaced with Diamantina. However, in the current state of the game, the new Flower Dragon does not get replaced by Diamantina or something similar. You actually get to use it. So it's really, really strong in Elemental, Dragon, or any of the final rooms for current Guild War Defense, as it's basically your Stellaryx alternative since you are not allowed to use Stellaryx or Wand. So be careful of that if you are setting defense. Like, don't set this as your Elemental defend for the current Guild War system, as this will get replaced with Prismatic Orb, for example. So we do have a proper team for that a little bit lower down. This is the offensive version of a 4 times Nexus build, not the defensive one. However, this one you could use defensively for Dragon. So this is a 4 times Dragon team that is compatible with the new Guild War defense system. This is using an Essence of Evil, the Great Worm, to go get a little bit of Skulls so we get better ratio, and of course the Essentia for a 50% mana start. And of course this is also applicable for PvP, though if you were using this PvP, you'd probably be using Wand of Stars rather than Essence of Evil, as it would be substantially quicker, but is not allowed when doing a Guild War defend, as it does get replaced in the current state of the game. So we are getting that little bit of Skulls every single turn. Obviously not mana, unfortunately. However, the benefit of that is we do end up getting our progress towards our Big Explode, which is what we're trying to work towards. Is get that nice Big Explode, get extra turn rate off of it. Obviously, Essence of Evil, you put on whatever the biggest threat is on the opposing team at any given time. And then once you have all your Skulls, you simply go and get your Big Explode, ideally get extra turn, and keep going from there, and you'll be good to go. So, next we have all of the pure color teams. So, let's go down each one of them. We only built 1 for each one of them, and then our current Guild War defend team that we're personally running. So, let's go through each of them, starting with blue. And blue actually really surprised me. I haven't been showing the team bonuses on all of these yet, but this one is really, really, really worth mentioning as far as what its bonus is. It is pure magic down the entire line. This thing has such a high damage output. We don't even have the highest magic in the game right now possible. And we're already at a 245. And the team's not even that bad. We got a mana accumulator over here that's decently tanky and has backup resummon. We have a resummon over here with, standard explodey hero weapon. We do have to use Orb Weaver class to be able to get that bonus. That's a little bit of a downside. We're not able to use a better hero class. And we just have a standard Empower to go feed directly into green to try feeding into it. Unfortunately, not blue. This kingdom has almost no way to play blue other than Rogue Spider, but you can't really use Rogue Spider with it. 1, because of the web, but 2, because, well, it's not Rogue. So you can't really get the full bonus out of it. But, so there's not really a good way to do blue out this kingdom. However, its damage output is so high, and you don't even need that much for it. Like, you get a Zhul'kari week, you could easily get together every single component of this, well, other than the dragon. You need to wait to get the dragon off the eggs. But, in a Zhul'kari week, you can get all these components nearly for free. It's actually a pretty cheap team, minus the blue dragon that's on it, which of course is what the whole team is based around. But ignoring him, the team is very, very cheap overall as far as every component. Is it a little bit towards the slower side? But of course, this is meant for something like a Zhul'kari restriction. It's not meant as like a general use team. It's meant pretty much exclusively for when you're doing a Zhul'kari restriction. I'm trying to get a good convert here. I'm just going to go for this. We need the mana already to get things rolling. But once we do, really big damage output. And now we have all the mana accumulation we need, so we can kind of just keep going back and forth, keep getting random stats effects, and now that the team is actually operational, we just keep spamming this until we win and get some really hefty damage. One other nice thing about this is he creates mana drain gems, and you can end up utilizing this pretty well, as every single thing from this kingdom has immune to mana drain pretty much. A lot of them have Dark Ancestry, the hero class itself has immune to mana drain, so even if the enemy does get these, your dragon is already at 0 because it just casted, and everything else on your team has immune to mana drain, so even if they get 1 or 2 of these, you're not losing any mana because this is already at 0 and everything else on your team already has immune. So it ends up working out really nicely, as you don't even get punished by the special gem that ends up creating, as each one of them do convert into a special gem. In this case, the mana drain gem. This is not something, oddly enough, that the big one does for some reason. It only does explode, but all the other ones do have a specific gem where it converts into, and this one ends up utilizing it really well due to all of the immunes that are on it. Or, you know, within the kingdom. So we'll just keep cycling mana, cast it one more time, and we're good to go. Even if you take some mana drain there. Oh no, they end up cursing us, so we did get drained. Luckily, he's enchanted, so he got it right back up. Oh, that's kind of funny. Anyways, we'll go throw that down. Normally they have immune, but curse does override it, of course. If you could just get that last little bit of mana already, that'd be great. Come on, you know, you can do it. Come on, that's the backup resummon I was talking about earlier. We have a green to yellow convert. We'll go take that for now. Get our last little bit of damage, and as long as you don't have barrier, that should be dead. Yeah, really hefty amount of damage, really great for Zhul'kari. A lot of these that we're showing right now, they're all basically pure kingdom, and they're really good if you're going to be running Underspire for any of these kingdoms. It's the main situation where you're going to be running these. Not in the sense that you'll be running this as a normal team, because obviously when you're allowed to use absolutely anything in the game, you're probably not ever running this team. But, you know, this is mostly for things like Underspire, Zhul'kari, stuff like that. Any kind of restriction under that regard where you're kind of forced into that category. As this is going to be one of the main ways that you can use a lot of these, because they end up gaining a lot of extra stats in these situations. And of course, in this case, we're going a pure Forest of Thorns team. We're using Forest Troll to end up doubling the green, Elemental Bow to be able to go and get a bunch of blue and green, which of course feeds into both of them, and Daughter of Yasmin, which has that really nice red to green convert while just minusing red, since we don't even use red. This is one of the few that actually gets to utilize the color the best from its kingdom. It gets to steal a bunch of life. The only problem with that is their life steal mechanic honestly doesn't really do that much. You can build into it a little bit, but the amount that you're stealing is so low that it's something nice that if you get it for free, but you're not really going out of your way to try to utilize it, as the amount of benefit from it is relatively small, unfortunately. Let's see if we can get a big convert here, because I believe he just left it perfectly for us. So we'll go grab all that, get our mana going, get everything to full mana, and of course this ends up creating Fairy Fire Gem. So on top of all the damage we would normally do, we'd be able to get an extra 50. So we'll get our extra turn here, we'll go double to green, hopefully we'll end up getting them aligned with as many Fairy Fires as possible. Unfortunately, greens can still override Fairy Fire greens, they still have not fixed that. Hopefully at some point, all the colored gem things like that will eventually work properly, because I would love to see the day where green gems no longer override green gems, so on and so forth, because gosh is that annoying whenever that happens. And of course we got an extra turn there, we could still set up more Fairy Fire, and yeah, this kills everything out. A nice clean 2-shot. And a lot of these teams, once you get them going, they're pretty much just good to go. The biggest issue a lot of times is getting them going, as they have a little bit of a lack of synergy within their kingdom initially, but once they have everything, you know, all the mana to get going initially, they're pretty much good to go. Same as this team. Keep in mind on this team, King Salinas should not cast. The only reason we have it in first slot is because of Impervious. We're mostly spamming Wild King in order to go get all of our stuff boosted, and then go and get our last little bit of mana accumulation off the weapon, and then just keep spamming the dragon. This one actually does utilize the Wild King a little bit more than it probably does the dragon, but of course this is a 4 times Wild Plains team, so if you were in a given restriction like that, that's the main kind of situation, similar to many of these that you're going to be bringing out. You do not cast King Salinas ever on this team comp. It is simply just there for the fact that it has Impervious and a 50% mana start are 2 other troops, as we are using the hero class to be able to bolster up even more stats. So we go get everything up, we have all of our mana accumulation now, and now we can actually start playing the battle, and yeah, let it begin. Go do that, get 1 billion damage, go and get our mana accumulation, and ideally cycle right back into him, and just keep going back and forth. If we want some AoE damage, if we're in kill range, or if we have a lot of yellow on the board, we can end up going for the AoE. Since we don't right now, I'm actually going to go for 1 more to see if we can get a little bit more yellow ratio on the board, and see if we can get a better chance for extra turn, which we end up getting. That gives us a bunch of barrier gems that we can then just go and explode. Hopefully the enemy doesn't get any, as it doesn't explode yellow, so it's not guaranteed to go get them all off the board, but even if they do get some, you're doing so much skull pressure that you're probably just going to be hitting through them anyways, and then you're good to go. And of course, the barriers also help keep you more alive compared to usual. Obviously, that shouldn't be too big a deal a lot of times, depending on the battles that you're like losing on. But high level Underspire, if you are using it in that kind of context down the line, or any kind of bard restriction, could definitely be helpful. All right, next we have ourselves Pure Zhejian. So Pure Zhejian is an interesting one. Main thing that we can end up getting out of this is we can basically build a pure dragon team here now. It's not exactly pure dragon, as Quillen's not a dragon, just looks like a dragon, and some of the other things just don't synergize as well. But a little bit of better dragon synergy, if nothing else, for Honglong. You can have the two of them here. It does end up having the give extra magic to dragon allies, which is relevant, because that means every single time you get an extra turn, not only are you getting the extra life that it ends up needing. Oh, sorry, I thought it was life and magic. Never mind, it's only magic. But still, you end up getting the extra magic that you need with the really good boost ratio that you have in order to go do a bunch of extra damage. I believe Quillen even has extra magic too. So you're actually gaining 4 magic to your Orchidus every single time you end up taking a extra turn off of the board. Unfortunately, the team itself doesn't have the greatest potential for getting extra turns, but we basically go Cobalt Wand and then kind of keep snowballing from there as far as our mana accumulation is concerned. So obviously right here, extra turn, boom, 4 magic. And every single time we do that, that will be boosting them up by quite a decent ratio every single time. What do we need here? What do we need? We'll go drop that, get our little bit of mana. We'll get the other extra turn there, but that's fine. I was just trying to get the Cobalt Wand going. If we can get that off the ground, we should be good to go as far as mana for the most part. Hopefully there's enough browns that we can actually get an extra turn here. So we'll go end up doing that. We end up getting, I believe this is a stun gem, right? Yes, this is indeed stun. So we can end up taking any of those to go and stun out the opposing team. Double checking. You don't have... Oh, I was hoping this would have some kind of board clear on it. I forgot. It actually doesn't, though we do have the skull spam once we end up cycling back into the first troop there, so that's still fine. So we'll go end up getting our big damage there, get our auto extra turn from the percent chance. So I guess it's not auto, but decent chance that ends up getting it. And basically just cycle our mana again until we can get it right back up. And one more. Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. This team is really heavily extra turn based. Not only are we getting 4 magic for our main dragon every single time, which is way more than 4 damage, is over 12 damage each time, but we are also getting 3 mana to our hero, so even more extra turn synergy. Ideally, I was hoping we could get some Quillen. It didn't seem like we got enough overflow mana, but he does have a double convert that can get you even more extra turns. But I was hoping we could get a little bit more than that than what we end up doing. But that's fine. Then we just kill it out with our normal amount of damage. Got another extra turn. It has over 262 attack while having enrage. And there we go. So that is the pure Zhejian version with the Orchidus, the brown dragon. Next, let's go do purple. Purple, unfortunately not as good. I feel like these last two are probably the worst, purple and red. They just don't have as many ways you could end up building them. Obviously, this thing has like Graveseer and Shadow Dragon in the kingdom that ends up creating the purple. But beyond that, you don't really have much going on in Sword's Edge. You would think a place that's somewhat based on dragons would have a little bit better options, like say Shentang did. But honestly, the overall options for this place, not the greatest for making this work, unfortunately. Oops, I thought that was yellow to purple for a second. Whoops, that's the other dragon. This is the one that does yellow to purple. Luckily, that was still extra turn. So we did not get punished for making that huge mistake there, but oh well. Alright, he'll do the thing. Grab a little bit of mana, grab her a little bit of mana, grab her a little bit of mana, and we should be off the ground now. Unfortunately, we don't have our yellow to purple convert still. But it should be enough to go get our extra turn, so we will go for that. We do get enchant gems off of this as well. Wait, have I never gotten an enchant gem triggered? That's funny. Really? All this time we have not gotten a single enchant gem? This gem, well, obviously we know what it does. Obviously, it's a purple gem that will give us enchant and give us 2 mana per turn. But yeah, this gem will give enchant to a random ally, allowing you to gain 2 mana at the start of its turn. That's funny. I actually did not realize we have never triggered that gem yet. I guess we've never had it as a power gem for a season. That's probably why. And there aren't really too many things that end up creating enchant gem in the current state of the game. Actually, is this the only one? I'm not even sure now that I think about it. Is it the only one? It might be the only one. Let's see. Does he end up triggering it? You know what? I'm going to go trigger it then. There we go. We got our enchant gems. Anyways, this team actually is pretty enchant heavy. Not only does this enchant your strongest ally, which is actually beneficial because this thing gains life whenever you take purple, meaning it will most likely be your strongest ally, as it's based on total durability, and this thing's total durability is likely to be higher, meaning that your enchant from this is almost always going to go to your big damage source dragon. But on top of that, yeah, you also get to create gems from the dragon itself. So that's pretty nice. So really, really enchant heavy team, which is a mechanic that wasn't really that heavy in Sword's Edge. I believe the only way to do it, pretty much other than a random stats effect, was to get the strongest enchant off of Graveseer, but now it actually has a lot better option for it. Not that enchanting is necessarily the best aspect in the game, especially since this place does not actually have any boost ratio to go and coincide with it, so a lot of the value that you otherwise would be getting is kind of being wasted by the fact that, you know, you have no way to really get extra value from it compared to some other options. But we'll go for a little bit of extra mana here, trying to see if we can get one last Shadow Dragon all the way at the end for a lot of mana. Unfortunately, we just do not... Oh, yeah, we do. I was gonna say, we just don't have a good alignment for it, but there we go, and then we can go for the Dragon again. It was still our turn due to the extra turn off of Shadow Dragon, and then boom, there we go. Alright, and now for the weakest one, which is the red one from Golvania. So, of course, this is a pure Golvania team. The one big upside of this is Graveseer synergy. When combined with Graveseer, it does cover every color except for green, and if doing either Ghost Queen or the Mana Accumulation weapon for Golvania, either of the two or both of the two cover the last remaining green that you end up needing. So they do cover every single color when using the triple core of either Grey King, the weapon for Explodey for Golvania, into Thornesia, as well as Grey King, Thornesia, and the Ghost Queen. Unfortunately, the 50% mana star from the Ghost Queen, of course, is only to undead, and the Thornesia, like all the dragons, are elemental dragon. It is not, unfortunately, undead, so it does not gain a benefit from that, but of course the rest of your team does. And we are going for the bonus again, and this one is a little bit worth showing anytime they have a lot of magic. Some of them are just because of stats and because we're building for pure team in one of the niche situations where they would end up getting used. However, this one does actually gain a decent amount of magic. Not as good as the Zhul'kari one, but still a decent amount, and gets to cover a very, very wide range of coloration. Of course, main gimmick with this is to use Grey King to constantly keep denying out the enemy. I would definitely say Grey King is more so the component of this team than anything. Like right here, we can get such good value from denying purple here, so we'll end up going denying purple, get our triple hit there, and hit everything except for the mythic there. And then we can just go mana accumulate off the one that we didn't end up hitting, get all of our mana that we need. Ooh, unfortunately missed. Looks like Grey King's gonna die here. Imagine we actually lose this. It's not impossible. Let's see. We need a extra turn off of this. I'm not sure why. This thing does burning. Obviously because it's red, that would kind of make sense to some degree. But there is no burn synergy within this kingdom at all. It is by far, if I had to say like which one is definitively the weakest of the six, it is 100% Thornesia. I don't really see much of a situation where you're using it other than to simply just cover some color when you're doing like a Golvania restriction. It just does not fit into most teams. There are a billion better ways to be burning out there than using this thing. And yeah, it's probably going to be the most underused out of any of these by far. At least all the other ones have a little bit of a use case, and even that does too. Oh, you know we got to go for this. Well, we do have one more team to go show, though. We'll be showing this, and well, I guess we can go show this this way. So, of course, we have Guild War Defense, and while I haven't done a video going over every single one, as that would take forever and a half, I'm not sure if anyone has yet, as I think it's like 70-something teams if you were to make like one of every unique team or something. It's something absurdly high. It's like 50-something. But there are a lot of teams potentially that you can set, as there are 6 different keeps with every single troop type and every single color being covered. However, of course, you only ever at any given time need to defend one singular location. And the one that we ended up opting for this time around is Elemental. So main reason I want to do this is I know not everyone in my guild probably has the Flower Dragon, and you definitely want to be running Flower Dragon on things like Dragon Restriction. If you have the under blue over here, you'd want to be running on Elemental Restriction. You'd be wanting to run it on whatever your final palace is, most likely, as at the current state of the game, it is not replaced like Stellaryx is, so you are allowed to use it, and it's basically your strongest Stellaryx. Situational when you bring it out, I would still use Stellaryx more often than not compared to this new dragon. However, if you have the option between Diamantina and this new Flower Dragon, you're definitely choosing the new Flower Dragon, as it's just so much stronger comparatively. But yeah, this is the team that we end up setting. Essence of Evil, Daughter of Yasmin, the new 6-color Flower Dragon, and Aquaria. I didn't end up setting Submerge on this. You can set Submerge instead of Barrier on Brown when it comes to this perk right over here. But the main reason I didn't do this is there is still one thing that has Submerge, and then Furnace already has a counter to it. Because keep in mind, the team that you're trying to counter here, at least for this Guild War, for this particular one, is a 4x Broken Spire team. So you get to deny the red, which they end up needing. Unfortunately, it does feed them green into their Ogress. However, hopefully the AI will not miss. You have Essence of Evil for just negating out whatever. Hopefully the enemy will hit something good like Infernus or their 6-color dragon. Well, not 6-color, whatever the 3-color red dragon is there. And of course you have your main damage source, which currently at this moment in time does not get replaced with Diamantina. It gets simply, you can just simply use it. It is absurdly strong, and in any category that it can be used, it probably should be used. The main ones being obviously Elemental, Dragon, and every Palace location. If you have this dragon, you should be setting your defend in one of these 3 locations, ideally. just so you make sure that every single person in your guild has a team set up that is for the color for the palace, the elemental, and the dragon. So if you have any of those, well, obviously you always have the palace, but if you also have elemental and dragon in your composition, you want to make sure that you set up your defend team in that location, as some other people in your guild might not yet have the dragon, and as of currently, it does not get replaced. Though that could change very soon, as it is very, very, very strong. I do have to say, though, I haven't actually mentioned this yet. If you're wondering, should you craft Chrysantherax or this new flower dragon? I honestly feel like Chrysantherax is still the better way to go, especially if you already started getting it. When Diamantina and Chrysantherax came out, you know, from Diamantina to Chrysantherax, it was like 100% definitively just go Chrysantherax instead. However, assuming they ban this from Guild War at some point in the future, it is basically just situational Chrysantherax. There are situations where it are better, it is situations where it is worse. It has a 2 higher mana cost, it doesn't have as good a mana accumulation, but it has a better damage range, and has some other synergies they can end up doing as far as team builds. It also, pretty noteworthy, which this team ends up utilizing, not sure if I showed it on the team page for stats, I need to go show it, but this is almost a, not almost, this is a 4 times Nexus team, is it not? No, it's a 3 times Nexus team, but we're getting a lot of Nexus bonus. We are getting almost pure Nexus bonus. We can actually see it over here. We're getting a 3 times Nexus bonus, which is giving us a lot of extra stats. Unfortunately, not magic. We are getting the 4 times elemental bonus for magic, but you're getting a lot of stats from having 3 times Nexus. The only thing on this team that isn't is Daughter of Yasmin, because we need that really good convert to go deny everything and to go get all of our starting mana. The AI will likely not use this correctly, unfortunately. But the hopes is that occasionally it will. At some point, someone will fight that team and the AI will use it correctly. And whatever team that ends up doing it to, they will lose. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. But, you know, half the time the AI is going to miss pretty hard with it. And especially when you have 1 in power, obviously people can try to counter it preemptively. As right now, we could use it perfectly because, you know, we're using it offensively. We have full control over when we end up utilizing it. However, the AI will be way, 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 way less smart about it as far as when it decides to use it. Like the second it's up, oh, Anu, nice. But the second it's up, it's going to be like, oh, time to spam click it. But hopefully it'll use it at a time where it is actually useful. But, yeah, you can end up setting this as your elemental defend. I'm not sure if this is the strongest thing you can set. There's definitely a few other options you could do here. The most noteworthy one being to replace it out with, go to base rarity here. Instead of going that Submerge Elemental Dragon, you can instead go of Barrier on Brown. You can replace that out for Submerge every, for Deluge, and get a Submerge every extra turn, which will sacrifice you Barrier on Brown. However, the benefit that that gives you is it opens up the ability to get an Umbral Star, whatever it was, that one Elemental Star every single time. Of course, you have things like Truffle and stuff if you want to go that route, but the one I'm looking for is actually, not this one, right? Where is it? Where is it? I know it's around here somewhere. Where are you? I forget your name. I think you're from Nexus as well. Let me just go to Nexus. It's a relatively new one. This is basically budget Takshaka, but obviously in a restriction where you're not allowed to use Takshaka, it could be really, really, really good. So we have this one right over, where there it is, Emberclaw, or Emberclaw. So it ends up converting a purple into an elemental star, and you could do this and then just change your hero trait to Submerge. If you happen to not have this mythic and only want to build around the new dragon, but you don't have the other mythic there, you could end up going down that route and just replace it with a Emberclaw and get a bunch of guaranteed mana. So that ends up working out pretty well, and you still get to main Submerge because you just have to give up your Barrier on Brown for Submerge on extra turn, and then you still get to keep your Submerge as well. There are things that bypass the Submerge, like Infernus this time around. However, there are still a lot of things that people will be using that do get countered by it, most notably, of course, the red dragon there. So you can end up getting your Submerge there, making sure that it can't really be as much of a threat as it normally would otherwise be. But, yeah. That'll be the full rundown for that. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Any moment now, I believe the little card pop-up comes up if you want to go see the stream of us going for the egg opening and everything. Because that was a ton of fun. That was a really, really fun stream. And yeah, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, or any team suggestions of your own if you've been building any around them. Would love to hear what kind of team comps you've been coming up with the new dragons. So how many have you gotten, or how much did it take to end up getting them as well? Because I'm really curious, because we actually did not too bad. The first time around, it took us 27. This time around, it took us 6. And this time around, it was somewhat in between. We're definitely on the slightly luckier side this time, so at least we didn't go dry. So whenever they add the 4th set of dragons, we'll be ready. It's probably not this year. If I had to guess, it's going to be sometime like mid or late next year. Because this time around, it took them a little longer. It took them about a year and a half to do the flower dragons. So I assume the next one will be about another year and a half, probably like summer next year, or even like, you know, a little bit later than that. But hopefully sometime later next year, we'll get them. And by then, of course, all the flower dragons will be in drop table. But as they currently stand, do not try to open up, or, you know, do not try to hold out for the troop to rotate in Soulforge. If it works correctly, it should be over another year before they appear in Soulforge. So you do have to deal, unfortunately, with the full RNG of the flower eggs until then. And at a 600 cost, they are pretty pricey. Of course, for any of you that don't know, main ways to farm Dragonite is during Vault Event weekend. Simply just go and quick kill explore and try to find as many Dragonite gnomes as you can, do as many Ploos as you can. However, if you do want to offset it with a little bit of in-game currency, you can spend gems from your daily tributes and everything else in order to go and buy additional Dragonite. You could buy it here every single day at a cost of 5 gems per Dragonite, and you can also get it from spamming Explore 12, doing the same thing. If you go spam high-level Explorer, you will eventually get merchant offers, and those merchant offers have Dragonite at the exact same ratio as this, where you could buy the Dragonite for 5 gems converting into 1 Dragonite. So you can end up getting that to expedite the process a little bit if you're looking to get some more in a pinch. But anyways, guys, it's a full rundown. All the teams are in the description and pinned a comment if you want to go and copy paste any of them. And I would love to hear your own. Best of luck if you're going to be trying for the eggs, and I'll catch all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.